I've always dreamed of a night like this.
What do you think you're doing? You're just a waitress.
A racist woman tore a black woman's gown at a Savannah gala, thinking she was just a waitress. But when her millionaire husband descended the stairs and said,
She's my wife.
"She's not a waitress. She's my wife," the entire room went silent. What nobody knew, he was also her half-brother, and the wife who tore the gown. She'd been dead for 6 months. The woman at the gala was an actress. The real body was rotting in the Savannah River. And when they found out the truth,
You will not embarrass my family.
Wisehead, what is going on?
the champagne glass shattered first, then the gown. Savannah's St. Clair Country Club, where old money breathes through marble columns and whispered judgments, was hosting its annual charity gala. Golden chandeliers dripped light across marble floors. Designer dresses swirled like expensive ghosts, smiles sharp enough to draw blood. The air smelled of magnolias and secrets nobody dared speak aloud. And Maya Collins? She didn't belong. At least, that's what they thought. She stood near the champagne table in an emerald gown that caught light like a forest fire. Quiet, elegant, back straight despite the stares, radiating something the room couldn't name, and that terrified them. Victoria Langford spotted her first. Blonde, diamonds dripping from her wrists like frozen tears. A smile that could freeze hearts mid-beat. She strode across the ballroom like she owned gravity itself, her heels clicking against polished floors like a countdown. "You missed a spot." Maya blinked, confused. Victoria's voice sharpened into a blade. "Don't play stupid with me. I said wipe that table." The music faltered. Violins stumbled. Conversations died mid-sentence. 200 heads turned in perfect, horrified unison. Maya opened her mouth to speak, but Victoria's hand was already moving. She grabbed Maya's sleeve and ripped. The sound tore through the silence like lightning splitting oak. Silk shredded. Thread snapped. Maya stumbled backward, clutching torn fabric to her chest, her breath catching in her throat. Gasps erupted like fireworks. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Victoria sneered, "Know your place." But then, footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, descending the marble staircase like judgment itself. A man in a black tuxedo appeared. Tall, commanding, face pale as moonlight on water. Daniel Langford, Victoria's husband. He stopped in front of Maya. His eyes widened. His jaw trembled like a fault line about to split. "Maya," he whispered. The room held its breath. Victoria's smirk cracked. "How do you know her?" Daniel didn't answer. He just stared at the woman in the torn emerald gown. The woman everyone thought was staff, and said the words that detonated the entire night. "She's not a waitress." Silence pressed down like a storm cloud. "She's my wife." Subscribe now, because what happens next will shatter everything you think you know. Comment below. Would you have stayed silent or spoken up? Maya Collins wasn't born into elegance. She was born into survival. Raised in a cramped apartment on the south side of Atlanta, Georgia, where sirens sang lullabies and gunshots marked midnight. Her mother worked double shifts at Grady Memorial Hospital, scrubbing floors until her knees ached. Her father? Gone before Maya could remember his face. But Maya had something most people in that neighborhood didn't, a dream that refused to die. She studied by streetlight when the power got cut, memorized textbooks in public libraries across Fulton County, graduated top of her class at Booker T. Washington High, earned a full scholarship to Spelman College, clawed her way into corporate America with nothing but grit, intelligence, and a suit she couldn't afford but wore like armor. By 28, she'd built a life. A small consulting firm in Buckhead with floor-to-ceiling windows. Clients who respected her mind more than her background. A brownstone with a porch swing overlooking Piedmont Park where she drank coffee and watched the sunrise. She'd made it. And then she met Daniel Langford at a business conference in Charleston, South Carolina. He was everything she wasn't. Old money stretching back generations. Quiet power that didn't need to announce itself. A smile that felt like summer rain after years of drought. They married in secret 6 months later. A courthouse ceremony in Macon, Georgia. No family. No fanfare. No photographers. Just vows whispered like prayers between two people who believed love could rewrite history. Daniel promised her safety, a life beyond struggle, a future where she could finally exhale without waiting for the next disaster. But promises, Maya learned too late, are just words wrapped in hope and stitched with lies. 3 years ago, everything burned. Her consulting office in Atlanta went up in flames on a Tuesday night in October. Investigators called it arson. The body they found inside was charred beyond recognition, but the dental records matched perfectly. Maya Collins was declared dead. Except Maya wasn't dead. She was hidden, relocated, erased like a mistake in permanent ink. Daniel told her it was temporary, that dangerous people were circling closer, that faking her death was the only way to keep her breathing. So, she became a ghost, a woman without a name, drifting between cheap motels in Alabama and Mississippi, waiting for Daniel to call and say it was finally safe. He never did. Until tonight. Until Savannah. Until Victoria Langford tore her gown and the world she buried came clawing back to life. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Whispers became shouts. Phones appeared like fireflies in the dark. Camera flashes turned the St. Clair Country Club into a lightning storm of judgment and curiosity. She's his wife. That can't be right. Victoria's going to lose her mind. And Victoria? She stood frozen near the champagne fountain, her diamond bracelet catching light like shattered glass. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. You're lying, she finally whispered, but her voice cracked like thin ice under pressure. Daniel didn't respond. He just stared at Maya with eyes that held 3 years of ghosts. Maya's hands trembled as she clutched the torn fabric of her emerald gown. Her heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought it might escape. She wanted to run, disappear, become invisible again. But Daniel reached for her hand. She flinched. The crowd noticed. A woman near the bar gasped. A man in a navy suit leaned toward his wife and muttered something that made her eyes widen. Maya, Daniel said softly, his voice barely audible above the chaos. I can explain. Explain? Maya's voice cut through the noise like a blade through silk. You told me to stay hidden. You said it was temporary. You said. Her voice broke. Daniel's jaw clenched. For a moment, he looked like a man standing at the edge of a cliff, deciding whether to jump or turn back. Then he leaned closer, his lips near her ear. Not here. Please. Not in front of them. But Maya pulled away, her eyes blazing with something the crowd couldn't name. Rage mixed with heartbreak, fear tangled with recognition. Why now? She demanded. 3 years, Daniel. 3 years I lived like a ghost in motels across Tennessee and Louisiana, waiting for you to tell me it was safe. And you show up here? At a gala in Savannah? With her. She pointed at Victoria, whose face had gone pale as moonlight on marble. Victoria's hands balled into fists. I don't know what kind of con you're running, she hissed at Maya. But Daniel and I have been married for 2 years. Legally married. In Charleston. With witnesses. Maya's breath caught. 2 years. The timeline didn't make sense. Unless. Daniel's face drained of color. He looked like a man watching his entire world collapse in real time. And that's when Maya knew. He wasn't just hiding her from danger. He was hiding something far worse. 3 years ago. Atlanta, Georgia. Maya's consulting office sat on the 12th floor of a glass building in Midtown, overlooking the glittering skyline. She'd worked late that Tuesday night in October, finalizing a contract for a client in Nashville. The clock read 11:47 p.m. when her phone buzzed. Daniel, go home, he said. No greeting. His voice tight, like a wire about to snap. I'm almost done, Maya replied, scrolling through spreadsheets on her laptop. Just need to. Now, Maya. Leave now. Something in his tone made her spine stiffen. She'd heard Daniel worried before. Stressed. Overwhelmed by business deals gone sideways. But this was different. This was fear. What's wrong? She asked, already closing her laptop. I'll explain when you get home. Just go. Don't stop anywhere. Don't talk to anyone. The line went dead. Maya grabbed her purse and headed for the elevator. Her heels clicked against polished floors. The building felt too quiet. Too empty. Like a held breath waiting to scream. She pressed the elevator button. Once. Twice. Nothing. The lights above the elevator doors stayed dark. Her heart began to race. She turned toward the stairwell, and that's when she smelled it. Smoke. Faint at first, then stronger, creeping under doorways like invisible fingers reaching for her throat. Maya ran, down 12 flights of stairs, her lungs burning, her legs shaking. She burst through the lobby doors onto Peachtree Street, just as flames exploded through the windows above. Glass shattered. Metal groaned. The entire 12th floor became an inferno that lit up the Atlanta night sky like a second sun. Sirens wailed. People screamed. Fire trucks roared down the street from stations in Buckhead and Virginia Highland. Maya stood on the sidewalk, trembling, watching her entire life burn. And then Daniel appeared. He pulled her into a black SUV idling at the curb. No explanation. No comfort. Just urgency that tasted like metal and ash. "They found you," he said, speeding through red lights toward Interstate 85. "Who found me?" Maya's voice cracked. "Daniel, what's happening?" He didn't answer. Just drove faster. They reached a safe house in Decatur by dawn. A tiny apartment above a laundromat where the walls smelled like detergent and regret. That's when Daniel told her the plan. A body would be found in the wreckage, badly burned. The dental records would match hers. He'd already arranged it. The police would declare Maya Collins dead. "You'll be safe," he promised, his hands shaking as he held her face. "I'll fix this. I just need time." "Time for what?" Maya demanded. "Who wants me dead?" Daniel's eyes filled with something she'd never seen before. "Guilt. People I owe," he whispered. "People who don't forgive debts." He left her in that apartment with cash, a burner phone, and a promise to return. 3 years later, she was still waiting. Subscribe before the truth buries us all. Back in Savannah, the gala dissolved into madness. Security tried to restore order, but the damage was done. Guests clustered in corners, phones pressed to ears, spreading rumors faster than wildfire through dry Georgia pine. Maya stood near the fountain, her torn gown drawing stares like blood in water. Victoria had disappeared into the powder room, her sobs echoing through marble walls. Daniel paced near the grand staircase, running his hands through his hair like a man unraveling thread by thread. And then the lights went out. Complete darkness swallowed the ballroom. Women screamed. Glass shattered somewhere near the bar. Emergency exit signs glowed like distant stars, barely cutting through the black. Maya's breath caught in her throat. Her pulse hammered against her skin. This wasn't an accident. Someone whispered her name in the dark. She spun around, but saw only shadows moving like ghosts through the crowd. Hands reached. Bodies pushed. Panic spread like poison through veins. When the lights flickered back on 30 seconds later, everything had changed. Victoria was gone. Daniel was gone. And on the floor near Maya's feet, a folded piece of paper, cream-colored and crisp, like it had been waiting for this exact moment. Maya's hands trembled as she picked it up. Her name was written on the outside in elegant script. Too elegant. Too deliberate. She unfolded it slowly. 3 words stared back at her in red ink. Asterisk, don't trust anyone. Asterisk. Her blood turned to ice. The handwriting looked like Daniel's, the same slant, the same careful loops he used when signing contracts at his office in Charleston. But something was off. The pressure was different. The spacing uneven. Like someone had traced his handwriting. Mimicked it. Forged it. Maya looked up, scanning the ballroom. Guests were flooding toward the exits now, security waving them through like cattle. The music had stopped. The champagne fountain stood silent, its golden liquid no longer flowing. She shoved the note into the torn pocket of her gown and pushed through the crowd toward the entrance. Her heels caught on marble. Her breath came in short, desperate gasps. Outside, rain hammered the streets of Savannah's historic district. Thunder rolled across the Savannah River like drums announcing war. Lightning split the sky, illuminating moss-draped oak trees that looked like skeletal hands reaching for heaven. Maya scanned the parking lot. No sign of Daniel's black Mercedes. No sign of Victoria's white Range Rover. Both vehicles gone. A hand touched her shoulder. She spun around, fists raised. It was the club manager, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses and sweat beading on his forehead despite the cold rain. "Miss Collins," he stammered. You need to see something." He led her back inside, past security, down a side hallway she'd never noticed before. The carpet was burgundy and worn. The walls lined with portraits of club founders dating back to 1892. They stopped at a door marked private. The manager pushed it open. Inside was Daniel's coat, his phone, his wallet. all arranged neatly on a desk, like he'd never planned to come back for them. Maya left the country club at 2:17 a.m. The rain had stopped, leaving Savannah's cobblestone streets slick and glistening under amber streetlights. Fog rolled in from the Savannah River, thick as cotton, swallowing the historic district whole. She walked without direction, just moved, one foot in front of the other, her torn emerald gown dragging through puddles that reflected the moon like broken mirrors. Her mind kept circling back to the note, to Daniel's belongings arranged so carefully, to Victoria's disappearance. Nothing made sense. And yet, everything felt inevitable, like pieces of a puzzle she'd been assembling her entire life without realizing it. She found herself at River Street, where old brick warehouses had been converted into restaurants and tourist shops. Everything was closed now, dark, silent except for the gentle lapping of water against the docks. The Savannah River stretched wide and black before her, moving slow like molasses toward the Atlantic Ocean 70 miles east. Spanish moss hung from live oaks along the riverbank, swaying in the night breeze like ghosts dancing to music only they could hear. Maya stepped closer to the edge of the dock. The water reflected her face, fractured, distorted, barely recognizable. She thought about Atlanta, about the fire, about the 3 years she spent erased from existence, living in cheap motels across the deep South, waiting for Daniel to say it was safe. He never did, and now she understood why. He wasn't protecting her. He was protecting himself. Beautiful night for secrets, isn't it? Maya's head snapped up. A woman stood 20 feet away, half hidden in shadow near a street lamp. Older, maybe 60, wearing a dark coat despite the humidity that still clung to the Georgia air. "Who are you?" Maya asked, her voice steadier than she felt. The woman stepped closer. Her face came into view. Sharp cheekbones, silver hair pulled back tight, eyes that looked like they'd seen too much and forgotten nothing. "Someone who knew your mother," she said softly. "Back in Montgomery, Alabama. Before everything fell apart." Maya's breath caught. She hadn't thought about Montgomery in years. Hadn't thought about the stories her mother used to tell before the cancer took her voice, then her breath, then her life. "My mother never mentioned you," Maya said carefully. The woman smiled, sad and knowing. "She wouldn't have. She was protecting you too." She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a photograph. Old, faded, creased from being folded and unfolded too many times. She handed it to Maya. In the photo, a young black woman holding a baby, standing outside a church in what looked like rural Alabama. The woman's smile was bright, hopeful, unaware of the storm coming. Maya's hands trembled, because the woman in the photo was her mother, and the man standing beside her, his hand on her shoulder, his face half turned from the camera, was Daniel Langford. The photograph burned in Maya's hands like evidence of a crime she didn't know had been committed. "When was this taken?" she demanded, staring at the image of her mother standing beside Daniel. Young, smiling, alive. The older woman's expression remained unreadable. 1995, Montgomery, Alabama. Outside Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. Maya's mind raced. 1995. She would have been 3 years old. Her mother had never mentioned Daniel. Never spoke of any man except Maya's father, and even those memories were vague, wrapped in silence and shame. "Why are you showing me this?" Maya asked. "Because you need to understand what you're walking into," the woman said. "Daniel Langford isn't who you think he is, and neither was your mother." Before Maya could respond, sirens wailed in the distance. Blue and red lights flickered across the Savannah River like fireworks reflecting on black glass. Police cruisers screamed down River Street, tires screeching on wet cobblestone. They stopped near the docks, exactly where Maya had been standing moments before the woman appeared. Officers poured out, flashlights cutting through fog like knives through smoke. "We need to go," the woman whispered urgently. But Maya stood frozen, watching as a dive team emerged from one of the vehicles, hauling equipment toward the water's edge. "What are they looking for?" Maya breathed. The woman didn't answer. She just grabbed Maya's arm and pulled her into the shadows between 2 brick warehouses. They watched from the darkness as divers entered the water. Minutes passed. Then voices erupted from the docks, urgent, shocked. Someone had found something. The divers surfaced, pulling a sealed evidence bag from the murky depths. Inside, something that caught light even through plastic. Diamonds. Victoria's bracelet. The same one Maya had seen glittering on Victoria's wrist at the gala. The same one she'd noticed torn and missing when Victoria vanished. Maya's stomach dropped. An officer held the bag up to another, speaking in low tones. Then both turned toward the warehouses, toward the exact shadows where Maya hid. Her pulse hammered. "They're going to think I did something to her," Maya whispered, panic rising in her throat like flood water. The older woman's grip tightened on her arm. "That's because someone wants them to." "Who?" "The same people who burned your office in Atlanta. The same people who made you disappear. The same people." She stopped mid-sentence. Because standing at the far end of the dock, barely visible in the fog, was a figure wearing a long coat. Watching them, the figure raised one hand, and in it, something glinted. Another bracelet, identical to the one the police just pulled from the river. Maya's blood turned to ice. Because she suddenly understood. Victoria hadn't disappeared. Victoria had been replaced. Drop a comment. Who do you think is behind all this? Maya didn't sleep that night. She couldn't. The older woman, who'd introduced herself only as Constance, had taken her to a safe house in Tybee Island, a small barrier island 20 miles east of Savannah. The house sat on stilts overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, weathered wood groaning with every gust of salt-heavy wind. Maya sat on the porch as dawn broke across the water, painting the sky in shades of bruised purple and blood orange. The photograph of her mother and Daniel lay on her lap, its edges worn from her fingers, tracing the same question over and over. How long had Daniel known her family? And why had he never said anything? Her burner phone, the same one Daniel had given her 3 years ago in that Decatur apartment, buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out slowly, heart hammering. One new voicemail. Unknown number. Maya's hands trembled as she pressed play. Static crackled. Then Daniel's voice filled the silence, ragged, desperate, barely recognizable. Asterisk Maya. If you're hearing this, it's already too late. Asterisk. Her breath caught. Asterisk. I thought I could protect you. Thought if I kept you hidden, kept you away from all of this, you'd be safe. But I was wrong. They know. They've always known. Asterisk. A crash in the background. Glass shattering. Daniel's breathing grew heavier. Asterisk. The fire in Atlanta wasn't random. The body they found wasn't an accident. It was a message. They wanted me to know they could reach you whenever they wanted. Asterisk. Maya's vision blurred with tears. Asterisk. Victoria. She's not who I told you she was. She never was. She's one of them. A handler. Assigned to watch me. To make sure I stayed in line. Asterisk. His voice broke. Asterisk. I'm sorry, Maya. I'm so sorry. Your mother. She tried to warn me. Back in Montgomery. Before everything spiraled. She knew what they were capable of. And I didn't listen. Asterisk. Silence. Heavy breathing. Then. Asterisk. If anything happens to me, find Constance. She'll tell you the truth. About your mother. About the debt. About why they'll never let either of us go. Asterisk. The recording ended. Maya stared at the phone, her entire body numb. Daniel's message had been sent 12 hours ago. From inside her safe house in Tybee Island. The same house where she was sitting right now. Her blood turned to ice. She slowly turned her head toward the screen door leading inside. And through the salt-stained glass, she saw it. A red light blinking in the corner of the living room ceiling. A camera. Someone had been watching her the entire time. Maya ran. She grabbed the photograph, her phone, and bolted from the Tybee Island safe house without looking back. Her feet hit sand, then pavement, then the highway leading back toward the Georgia mainland. She didn't stop until she reached Interstate 16, thumb out, praying someone would pick her up before whoever was watching found her first. A semi-truck driver heading to Macon gave her a ride. He asked no questions when he saw her torn emerald gown and wild eyes. Just handed her a bottle of water and turned up the gospel station. By noon, Maya was in Atlanta. By 2 p.m., she was standing on her Aunt Rue's porch in the West End neighborhood, knocking with shaking hands. The door opened slowly. Aunt Rue stood there, 73 years old, silver hair wrapped in a silk scarf, wearing an apron dusted with flour. Her eyes widened when she saw Maya. "Lord have mercy," she whispered. "Child, we buried you 3 years ago." Maya's knees buckled. Aunt Rue caught her before she hit the ground. Inside, the house smelled exactly like Maya remembered. Collard greens simmering on the stove. Cornbread baking in the oven. Sweet tea sweating in a glass pitcher on the counter. Sunday dinner. Even though it was Saturday, Aunt Rue sat Maya at the kitchen table, the same table where Maya had done homework as a child, where she'd learned to snap green beans and roll biscuit dough. "Tell me everything," Aunt Rue said, pouring tea into a mason jar. So Maya did. The gala, Victoria, Daniel's confession, the fire, the 3 years in hiding, the photograph, the voicemail, the camera. All of it spilled out like a dam finally breaking. Aunt Rue listened without interrupting, her weathered hands folded on the table. When Maya finished, silence hung heavy between them. Then Aunt Rue spoke, her voice low and knowing. "Baby," she said slowly, "some bloodlines carry storms." Maya blinked. "What does that mean?" Aunt Rue stood and walked to a cabinet above the refrigerator. She pulled down a small wooden box, its surface carved with symbols Maya didn't recognize. She set it on the table and opened it. Inside, old photographs, letters yellowed with age, a birth certificate, and a folded piece of paper that looked like it had been hidden for decades. Aunt Rue pulled out one photograph and slid it across the table. Maya's breath stopped. It was another picture of her mother, younger, maybe 18, standing outside a plantation house in rural Alabama with white columns and magnolia trees. Beside her stood a white man in an expensive suit, and in her mother's arms, a baby. "That's you," Aunt Rue said quietly. 6 months old. Taken outside the Langford estate in Selma, Alabama. Maya's world tilted. "Your mother worked there as a housekeeper," Aunt Rue continued. "For Daniel's father, Thomas Langford." The room spun. "And Thomas Langford," Aunt Rue said, her eyes filling with tears, "is your father." Maya couldn't breathe, couldn't think, because suddenly everything made sense. Daniel wasn't just her husband. He was her half-brother. Maya couldn't speak, couldn't move. The revelation sat in her chest like a stone crushing her lungs. Daniel, her husband, her half-brother. He didn't know, Aunt Rue said quickly, reading the horror on Maya's face. "Your mother never told him. Never told anyone except me." Maya's hands trembled. "Why?" "Because Thomas Langford was a powerful man in Alabama. White, wealthy, connected. And your mother was black, poor, and 18 years old working in his house." Aunt Rue's voice hardened. She knew what would happen if the truth came out. So she ran. "Came to Atlanta. Raised you alone." Maya pressed her palms against the kitchen table, trying to steady herself. "Daniel married me. Her voice broke. "We were together." "He didn't know, baby," Aunt Rue repeated. "Thomas kept you a secret, even from his own son." "But someone knew," Maya whispered. "Someone found out." Aunt Rue nodded slowly. "And that's why they want you gone." Maya stayed at Aunt Rue's house for 2 days, hiding in the guest bedroom while trying to process a truth that rewrote her entire existence. On Monday morning, a package arrived. No return address, no postage, just sitting on the front porch like it had materialized from thin air. Aunt Rue brought it inside, her face tight with concern. Maya opened it slowly. Inside was the emerald gown, the same one Victoria had torn at the gala in Savannah. But now it was perfectly stitched, repaired, like the violence had never happened. A small card was pinned to the fabric. Maya's hands shook as she read it. Asterisk, property of the Langford estate. Asterisk. Her stomach dropped. Someone knew where she was. Knew she was with Aunt Rue. Knew everything. She flipped the card over. On the back, written in the same red ink as the note from the gala. Asterisk, come home, Maya. It's time to claim what's yours. Asterisk. Below the words, an address in Selma, Alabama. The Langford plantation. Aunt Rue grabbed Maya's arm. Don't you dare go there. That place is cursed. Your mother barely escaped with her life. But Maya was already pulling out her phone, searching for bus routes to Alabama. Because she understood now. This wasn't just about Daniel. Or Victoria. Or some debt owed to dangerous people. This was about inheritance. This was about a white family's legacy threatened by the existence of a black daughter they'd tried to erase. And Maya was done hiding. Subscribe now. The truth is darker than you think. The bus to Selma left from the Greyhound station on Forsyth Street in downtown Atlanta at 6 a.m. Tuesday morning. Maya sat in the back, the repaired emerald gown folded in a canvas bag at her feet. She stared out the window as Georgia countryside blurred past. Pine trees, gas stations, small towns that looked frozen in time. She couldn't stop thinking about the fire. The night her life supposedly ended. The memory played in her mind like a scratched record, skipping, revealing new details she'd buried under 3 years of survival. Atlanta. October. 3 years ago. She was in her office on the 12th floor. Daniel had called, frantic, told her to leave immediately. But there was something else. Something she'd forgotten until now. Before Daniel called, she'd received an email. No subject line. No sender name. Just an attachment. A photograph. Maya squeezed her eyes shut, forcing herself to remember. The photograph had been of a house. White columns. Magnolia trees. The Langford plantation in Selma. And standing on the porch, a young boy. Maybe 7 or 8 years old. Brown skin. Bright eyes. A child she didn't recognize. Below the photo, 3 words. He looks happy. Maya's breath caught as the memory crystallized. She'd been staring at that photograph when Daniel called. When he told her to run. And then the fire started. She remembered now. The smoke came first from the hallway outside her office, not from inside. Someone had set the blaze deliberately, trapped her, but she'd escaped through the stairwell. And Daniel had been waiting outside, like he knew exactly when she'd emerge. The bus hit a pothole, jolting Maya back to the present. Her hands trembled as she pulled out her phone and opened her old email account, the one she'd abandoned after the fire. She scrolled through archived messages, searching, and there it was. The email from 3 years ago, still sitting in her inbox like a ghost waiting to be acknowledged. She opened it. The photograph loaded slowly. The plantation house. The magnolia trees. The young boy on the porch. Maya zoomed in on the child's face. And her heart stopped. Because she recognized him now. Not from memory, but from resemblance. He had Daniel's jawline. Her mother's eyes. The same curve of cheekbones Maya saw in her own mirror. This wasn't just any child. This was family. Below the original message, there was a timestamp she hadn't noticed before. The email had been sent from Selma, Alabama, from an IP address registered to the Langford estate. Someone inside that house had sent her this photograph 3 years ago. Someone wanted her to know this child existed. And then they tried to kill her before she could ask questions. The bus pulled into a rest stop in Montgomery, Alabama. Maya stepped off, legs shaking, and dialed the only person she trusted. Aunt Rue answered on the first ring. "There's a child," Maya said, her voice barely steady. "At the Langford plantation. Someone sent me his picture the night of the fire." Silence. Then Aunt Rue's voice, heavy with decades of secrets. "His name is Caleb. And baby, he's yours." 30 miles outside New Orleans, Louisiana, a boy named Caleb woke to the sound of rain hammering tin roof. He was 9 years old, small for his age, quiet in the way children become when they learn early that questions lead to silence. He lived with Margot and Eugene Porter in a shotgun house painted pale yellow, surrounded by sugarcane fields that stretched toward the horizon like an ocean frozen midwave. The Porters were kind, fed him well, made sure he got to school on time. But they never spoke of his parents, never explained why he lived with them instead of a mother and father. Caleb had one clue to his past, a silver charm he wore on a chain around his neck. Small, delicate, engraved with 2 initials he'd memorized by tracing them with his fingertips every night before sleep. ML. He'd asked Margot once what the letters meant. She'd gone pale, looked at Eugene, then said softly, "Someone who loved you very much." That was 4 years ago. Caleb never asked again. This morning, Margot made breakfast like always. Grits, eggs, toast with butter melting into golden pools. Eugene sat at the table reading the Times-Picayune, his reading glasses perched on his nose. Everything felt normal, until the knock came. 3 sharp raps on the front door. Eugene's newspaper lowered slowly. Margot's hand froze mid-stir over the grits pot. They looked at each other with an expression Caleb recognized. Fear. "Go to your room," Margot whispered. "But, now, baby, please." Caleb obeyed, but he didn't close his bedroom door all the way. He pressed his eye to the crack and watched. Eugene answered the door. A woman stood on the porch, tall, wearing a dark coat despite the Louisiana humidity. Her face was sharp, her eyes sharper. "We need the boy," she said. No greeting, no explanation. Eugene's voice hardened. "You can't have him. This isn't a request. We had an agreement," Margot said, stepping beside her husband. "You said if we kept him safe, you'd leave us alone." The woman's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Circumstances have changed. His mother is alive, and she's coming." Caleb's heart slammed against his ribs. His mother. Alive. She doesn't even know he exists, Eugene said. She does now, the woman replied. And when she reaches Selma, everything the Langfords built will collapse. Unless we move the boy first. She stepped forward. Eugene blocked the doorway. You're not taking him. The woman pulled something from her coat. A photograph. She held it up so Margot and Eugene could see. Caleb couldn't make out the image from his hiding spot, but he saw Margot's hand fly to her mouth. Saw Eugene's shoulders slump in defeat. We leave in 10 minutes, the woman said. Pack his things. She turned and walked back to a black SUV idling in the driveway. Caleb's world tilted. His mother was alive, and someone was taking him to meet her. Or stop her. Maya arrived at the Langford estate just after sunset. The plantation house sat at the end of a long gravel driveway lined with ancient live oaks in Selma, Alabama. White columns rose like bones against the darkening sky. Magnolia trees bloomed despite the autumn chill, their white petals glowing in twilight. The place looked exactly like the photographs. Like a postcard from a history most people wanted to forget. Maya stood at the iron gate, her canvas bag gripping the emerald gown. Her heart hammered. Her legs felt like water. This was where her mother had worked, where Thomas Langford had lived, where secrets older than Maya's existence still breathed through walls. The gate swung open on its own. No one had touched it. Maya stepped through, gravel crunching beneath her feet. The front door stood ajar. Light spilled from inside, warm and golden, like an invitation. Or a trap. She climbed the porch steps, pushed the door wider. Inside, the house whispered, not with voices, but with presence. Portraits lined the walls, generations of Langfords staring down with pale eyes and proud chins. Furniture draped in white sheets sat like ghosts waiting to wake. Maya walked through the foyer, her footsteps echoing on hardwood floors. She found herself in what must have been Thomas Langford's study. Darkwood paneling, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive desk facing windows that overlooked the gardens. And on that desk, letters. Dozens of them. Addressed to her. Maya's hands trembled as she picked up the first envelope. Postmarked 2 years ago. From Selma, Alabama. She tore it open. Asterisk, Dear Maya, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. But you deserve to know the truth about who you are. About what you're owed. Your father, asterisk. The letter ended mid-sentence. Like whoever wrote it had been interrupted. Maya grabbed another. Then another. All of them started the same way. All of them addressed to her. All of them postmarked after her supposed death. Someone had been writing to a ghost. She opened the last letter in the pile. This one was dated 3 weeks ago. Asterisk, Maya, they're coming for the boy. For Caleb. He's the only proof of your bloodline. The only heir who can challenge the Langford trust. If they erase him, they erase you. Come home before it's too late. D asterisk. Daniel. Daniel had been writing these letters. From this house. After he'd married Victoria. After he'd abandoned Maya to 3 years of hiding. He'd been here. Waiting. Maya's vision blurred with rage and confusion. Why hadn't he just called? Why hadn't he found her himself? Unless. A floorboard creaked behind her. Maya spun around. A figure stood in the doorway. Tall. Silhouetted against the hallway light. You came, the voice said. Not Daniel's voice. Victoria's. But when the woman stepped into the lamplight, Maya's breath stopped. Because it wasn't Victoria Langford standing there. It was someone wearing Victoria's face. Down to the last detail. Except the eyes. The eyes were wrong. Tell me in the comments. What would you do if you walked into this house? Maya backed away slowly, her pulse roaring in her ears. The woman wearing Victoria's face smiled. Don't be afraid. I'm not here to hurt you. Who are you? Maya's voice barely worked. A placeholder, the woman said simply. Someone paid to play a role, just like the real Victoria was. Maya's mind spun. Where is she? The real Victoria? The woman's smile faded. Dead. Has been for 6 months. Buried in a private cemetery outside Birmingham, Alabama. They needed someone to take her place at the gala. Someone to humiliate you publicly. Make you vulnerable. Why? Because humiliation breaks people faster than violence. And broken people make mistakes. Maya's hands clenched into fists. Who paid you? Before the woman could answer, headlights swept across the windows. A car was coming up the driveway. The woman's expression shifted. You need to leave. Now. Through the back. I'm not going anywhere until they're here, the woman hissed. The people who burned your office, who faked your death. If they find you here alone, you won't leave this house breathing. Maya hesitated for one heartbeat, then ran. She burst through the back door into the gardens, her feet hitting soft grass. Behind her, car doors slammed. Voices shouted. She didn't look back. Maya ran through magnolia trees and darkness until she reached a small church at the edge of the property. White clapboard, steeple pointed toward heaven like an accusation. The door was unlocked. Inside, candles flickered near the altar. And sitting in the front pew, an old black man in pastor's robes. He turned when Maya entered, breathing hard, and his eyes widened with recognition. "Sweet Jesus," he whispered. "You look just like your mother." Maya froze. "You knew her?" "I married you," the pastor said quietly. "You and Daniel. Right here in this church. 7 years ago." The room tilted. "That's impossible. We got married in Macon. At a courthouse." The pastor shook his head slowly. "That was the second ceremony. The public one. But the first happened here. Under false names. He called himself Marcus. You went by Leah." Maya's legs gave out. She collapsed into a pew. "Why?" she breathed. "Because he was protecting you from his father. Thomas Langford was dying. And his will had conditions. Whoever controlled the estate had to be pure bloodline. No black heirs. No mixed children." The pastor's voice broke. "Daniel knew about you. Knew Thomas was your father too. And he loved you anyway. But marrying you meant destroying his inheritance. So he did it in secret. Twice. Once here, in the eyes of God. Then again in Macon, in the eyes of the law." Maya's vision blurred with tears. "But he disappeared. He left me. He was hiding you, child. From people who would kill to keep the Langford legacy white and pure." The pastor leaned forward. "Your son, Caleb, he's the rightful heir. Not Daniel. Not anyone else. A direct descendant of Thomas Langford through your mother. And they know it." Maya's breath stopped. "Where is he? Where's my son?" The pastor's face darkened. "They moved him 3 days ago. From Louisiana. I don't know where." Outside, footsteps crunched on gravel. Getting closer. Maya pressed herself against the church wall, heart hammering. The footsteps stopped outside. Voices murmured. Then silence. The pastor stood slowly, his weathered hands gripping the pew. "There's a way out through the baptismal chamber. Goes underground. Leads to the old cemetery half a mile north." "Come with me," Maya whispered. He shook his head. "I'm 84 years old, child. I'll slow you down. Besides, someone needs to buy you time." Before Maya could protest, the church doors burst open. 2 men entered. Dark suits. Cold eyes. One reached inside his jacket. The pastor stepped into the aisle, blocking their view of Maya. "This is God's house. Whatever business you have, leave it outside." "Where is she?" the taller man demanded. "Gone. 10 minutes ago. Headed toward Montgomery on foot." The man's eyes narrowed. "You're lying. Search if you want. But you're wasting time." Maya didn't wait. She slipped through the side door into the baptismal chamber, found the hidden staircase, and descended into darkness. Behind her, she heard the pastor's voice rise in prayer. And then, a gunshot. Maya ran through the underground tunnel, tears streaming, lungs burning. The passage was narrow, dirt walls pressing close. Roots dangled from the ceiling like fingers. She emerged in the old cemetery just as dawn broke across Selma. Crumbling headstones jutted from overgrown grass. Most dated back to the 1800s. Maya collapsed against a marble monument, gasping. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered, hands shaking. "Maya," Daniel's voice. Ragged. Desperate. "Listen carefully. Victoria was never my wife. Not really. She was hired by the Langford Trust attorneys. Paid to watch me. Keep me in line after father died." "I know," Maya said numbly. "Someone already told me." "Then you know why I had to fake your death. The trust forbids black heirs. If they knew about you, about Caleb, they'd kill you both." Maya's throat tightened. "Where's my son?" "Safe. For now. I moved him from Louisiana to a facility in Mobile, Alabama. But they found out. They're coming for him." "What facility?" "St. Augustine's Children's Home." "But Maya, you can't go there alone. They're waiting for you." "I don't care." "Maya, you took 9 years from me, Daniel. 9 years I could have spent raising my son. Now tell me exactly where he is, or I swear." The line went dead. Maya stared at her phone. Then she stood, legs still shaking, and started walking. Mobile, Alabama was 180 miles south. She'd walk every mile if she had to. Because nobody, not the Langford family, not their attorneys, not their hired killers, was keeping her from her child anymore. She was done hiding. Done being erased. The sun rose higher, casting long shadows across the cemetery. And Maya Collins walked toward them like a woman with nothing left to lose. Maya reached Mobile by nightfall, catching rides from truck drivers heading south on Interstate 65 through Alabama. St. Augustine's Children's Home sat on the outskirts of the city, a sprawling brick building surrounded by chain-link fencing. Security cameras perched on every corner like watchful crows. Maya stood across the street, studying the layout. Her mind raced through possibilities. She couldn't just walk in. They'd be expecting her. Her phone buzzed. "Constance, don't go in there," the older woman said immediately. "It's a trap. My son is inside. They want you to think that." The boy was moved again this morning. To a private location. Maya's stomach dropped. "Where?" "I don't know yet. But Daniel does. He's at Sacred Heart Hospital in Pensacola, Florida. Room 412. Get there before they silence him permanently." The line went dead. Maya stared at the children's home one last time, then turned away. Pensacola was 60 miles south. She caught a Greyhound bus that crawled through the night, stopping in every small town between Mobile and the Florida state line. She reached Sacred Heart Hospital just after midnight. The building loomed white and sterile under fluorescent lights. Maya slipped past the front desk while the night nurse dozed, took the elevator to the 4th floor. Room 412 sat at the end of a dim hallway. Maya pushed the door open slowly. Daniel lay in the hospital bed, hooked to machines that beeped rhythmically. His face was bruised, swollen. Bandages covered his chest, and 4 dripped clear fluid into his arm. He looked like he'd been beaten within an inch of his life. Maya approached the bed, her throat tight. Daniel's eyes fluttered open. He saw her, and something broke in his expression, relief mixed with agony. "Maya," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "You shouldn't be here. Where's Caleb?" Daniel's hand trembled as he reached for hers. "They found him 3 days ago. Took him from the Porters in Louisiana." "I know. Where is he now?" Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "I tried to stop them. I swear I tried. But his voice cracked. "They're going to erase him. Just like they erased you." Maya's grip tightened. "Tell me where." "The old Langford hunting lodge. Outside Biloxi, Mississippi. On the coast." His breathing grew labored. "But Maya, they know you're coming. They want you there. It's—" He coughed, blood flecking his lips. "It's what?" Maya demanded. Daniel's eyes locked onto hers, desperate and haunted. "They found the boy. But what they really want is proof you existed. Proof Thomas Langford had a black daughter. Once they have that proof, they'll destroy it. And you." His hand went limp in hers. The heart monitor flatlined. Nurses rushed in, pushing Maya aside. They worked frantically, but Daniel's eyes had already gone distant. Empty. Maya stood frozen as they called time of death. And in her pocket, her phone buzzed one last time. A text from an unknown number. Just GPS coordinates. And 3 words. "Come get him. Subscribe before they erase everything." Maya reached Biloxi, Mississippi by dawn. The Langford Hunting Lodge sat on a bluff overlooking the Gulf of Mexico. Wind howled off the water, carrying salt and the promise of violence. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon. A hurricane was coming. Weather reports on the bus ride down had warned of Category 3 winds. Mandatory evacuations across the coast. But Maya didn't care about storms. She cared about her son. The lodge was dark. No cars in the driveway. No lights in the windows. Too quiet. Maya approached slowly, every instinct screaming trap. The front door hung open, creaking in the wind. She stepped inside. The lodge smelled of old wood and mildew. Mounted deer heads stared from walls. A stone fireplace dominated the main room. And sitting in a leather chair facing the cold fireplace, a woman. Not Constance. Not the fake Victoria. Someone new. The woman turned slowly. White. Maybe 50. Expensive suit. Cold smile. "Miss Collins. We've been expecting you." Maya's fists clenched. "Where's my son?" "Safe. For now." The woman stood. "My name is Patricia Caldwell. I represent the Langford Family Trust. I don't care who you are. Where's Caleb?" Patricia walked to the window. Outside, rain began to fall. Your son is leverage, Miss Collins. Nothing more. Sign over any claim to the Langford estate, and you'll see him again. I want to see him now. That's not how this works. Thunder cracked. The lights flickered. Maya took a step forward. You killed Daniel. You burned my office. You tried to erase me. And now you want me to just sign papers? Patricia's smile didn't waver. Yes. The storm intensified. Wind rattled the windows. Rain hammered the roof like bullets. Then the power went out. Complete darkness. Maya moved on instinct, diving sideways as something crashed where she'd been standing. Glass shattered. Wood splintered. Lightning flashed through the windows, illuminating the room for 1 second. Patricia was gone, but someone else was there. A figure standing in the doorway. Small. Child-sized. Caleb. Maya's voice cracked. Another lightning flash. The figure stepped forward. It was him. Her son. Brown skin. Bright eyes. The silver charm around his neck catching light. Mama, he whispered. Maya's heart shattered and rebuilt itself in the same moment. She ran to him, dropped to her knees, pulled him into her arms. He was real. Warm. Breathing. I've got you, she sobbed. I've got you. But then, footsteps behind them. Maya spun, shielding Caleb with her body. Patricia stood there, no longer smiling. She held something in her hand. A gun. I'm sorry, Patricia said. But you were never supposed to leave here alive. The storm screamed outside. And through the window behind Patricia, a woman's silhouette appeared, wearing Victoria's torn diamond bracelet. The same figure Maya had seen on the bridge in Savannah. The woman stepped through the window. Glass crunched under her feet. Rain soaked her dark coat. Victoria's diamond bracelet glinted on her wrist. Patricia's gun swung toward the intruder. Who the hell are you? The woman pushed back her hood. Maya's breath stopped. It was her mother. Older. Gray hair where black used to be. Lines carved deep around her eyes. But unmistakably her mother's face. The woman who died of cancer 12 years ago in Atlanta. Mama, Maya whispered, her voice breaking. The woman's eyes filled with tears. Baby girl. I'm so sorry. Patricia's gun didn't lower. This isn't possible. Denise Collins is dead. I saw the death certificate. You saw what Thomas Langford paid doctors to create, Maya's mother said quietly. He wanted me gone. Out of Alabama. Away from his legacy. So he faked my death and paid me to disappear. Maya's world tilted. Caleb pressed closer against her side. You've been alive this whole time? Maya's voice cracked with rage and grief. You let me think you were dead? To protect you, her mother said. Thomas threatened to destroy you if I ever contacted you again. To make sure you'd never inherit anything. Never claim your birthright. Then why come back now? Her mother reached into her coat and pulled out an envelope. Yellowed. Sealed with red wax. Because Thomas is finally dead. And before he died, he wrote this. She held it toward Maya. It's addressed to you. Mailed from New Orleans 3 weeks ago. Maya took it with trembling hands. The envelope felt heavy. Important. She tore it open. Inside, a single page in shaking handwriting. Asterisk. Maya, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And you deserve the truth. I am your father. Your mother worked in my house, and I loved her in ways I was too cowardly to defend. Society, my family, my legacy, I chose all of it over her. Over you. I've spent 30 years trying to bury that choice. But bloodlines don't stay buried. You are my daughter. Caleb is my grandson. And by law, you are the rightful heir to everything I built. The trust can fight it. They will fight it. But DNA doesn't lie. Enclosed is proof. Use it. Claim what's yours. Forgive me if you can. Thomas Langford, asterisk. Maya's hands shook as she reached back into the envelope. A folded document. Paternity test results. DNA proof. And a key. Patricia's face went white. That's not possible. The trust is ironclad. Not if there's a direct heir, Maya's mother said. Thomas made sure of that. He hid it for years. But guilt has a way of surfacing. Patricia raised the gun higher. Her hand trembled. None of you are leaving here. I'll burn this entire lodge down before I let. A gunshot exploded through the storm. But not from Patricia's weapon. She collapsed, blood spreading across expensive fabric. Behind her stood Constance, holding a revolver steady. Some debts, Constance said quietly, get paid in full. Comment below. Did you see this coming? Patricia's body lay still on the lodge floor. The storm howled outside, rain hammering the windows. Constance lowered her gun slowly, her face unreadable. Maya pulled Caleb closer, shielding his eyes. Who are you really? Constance's expression softened. Your mother's sister. Your aunt. I've been watching over you both since Montgomery. Maya's mother nodded, tears streaming. She's the one who helped me disappear, who kept tabs on you when I couldn't. The pieces finally clicked into place. The police in Savannah, Maya said slowly. They found Victoria's bracelet in the river. But Victoria was already dead. Constance nodded. 6 months ago, drowned in her bathtub in Charleston. Made to look like an accident. The trust needed her gone because she was asking too many questions about Thomas's will. So they replaced her, Maya whispered, with an actress at the gala. Someone to humiliate you publicly. Make you look unstable when you challenge the inheritance. Constance walked to the window. But the real Victoria's body was dumped in the Savannah River. I planted the bracelet so police would find it. So there'd be evidence. Maya's head spun. Why not just go to the police yourself? Because the Langford Trust owns half the judges in Alabama and Georgia. They'd bury any accusation I made. Constance turned back. But you, with Thomas's letter, the DNA proof, the key, you can't be buried. Maya looked down at the key in her hand. Heavy, old, engraved with a single word, legacy. What does this open? A safety deposit box, her mother said quietly. In a bank in Birmingham, Alabama. Thomas kept documents there. Proof of everything. His affairs, his bribes, his crimes, and his children, all of them, including you. Lightning split the sky. The storm was reaching its peak. Maya looked at Caleb, then at her mother, then at Constance. 3 generations of secrets, of survival, of erasure. We need to leave, Constance said, before the trust sends others. Maya nodded. She took Caleb's hand and followed her mother and aunt toward the back door. But before leaving, she turned back one last time. Patricia's body, the hunting lodge, the storm. She thought about Daniel, about the pastor, about everyone who'd died protecting a lie. No more hiding, Maya said quietly. Her mother squeezed her shoulder. No more hiding. They stepped into the hurricane together. And Maya Collins, daughter, mother, heir, walked into the storm with nothing left to fear. Because the truth was finally hers to claim. 3 weeks later, Birmingham, Alabama. Maya stood outside First National Bank on 20th Street, the key heavy in her palm. Caleb held her other hand. Her mother and Constance flanked them like sentries. The media had already caught wind. News vans lined the street. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed like lightning. Miss Collins, is it true you're Thomas Langford's daughter? What about the Langford estate? Are you claiming the inheritance? Maya ignored them all. She walked through the bank doors with her head high. The manager, a thin white man in his 60s, met them in the lobby. His hands trembled as he led them to the vault. Mr. Langford left explicit instructions, he said quietly. If anyone with this key came forward, we were to grant immediate access. He opened the safety deposit box. Inside, folders thick with documents, photographs, legal papers, and a USB drive labeled Truth. Maya's mother helped her sort through everything. Birth certificates for 3 other children Thomas had fathered with black women across the South. Financial records showing bribes to judges and politicians. Correspondence proving the trust had murdered to keep these secrets buried. Evidence of everything. This will destroy the Langford name, the manager whispered. Maya looked at him coldly. Good. Outside, police had arrived. Federal agents. The FBI had been watching the trust for years, waiting for proof. Maya handed them everything. By sunset, arrests were made. Trust attorneys, family members, everyone who'd participated in the cover-up. The Langford estate would be liquidated, divided among the hidden heirs. Justice, delayed but delivered. That night, Maya sat on the porch of Aunt Rue's house in Atlanta with Caleb sleeping against her shoulder. Her mother sat beside her. Constance rocked slowly in a chair. The emerald gown, torn, repaired, bloodstained, hung on the porch rail like a flag of survival. Maya's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But something made her. A child's voice. Different from Caleb's. Younger. Frightened. Are you Maya Collins? Maya's breath caught. Yes. Who is this? My name is Elijah. I'm 8 years old. My grandmother said you're my cousin. She said you'd help us. Maya's heart clenched. Another hidden heir. Another secret child. Where are you, Elijah? Hattiesburg, Mississippi. They said people are coming for us, that we need to disappear like the others. Maya looked at her mother, at Constance, at Caleb sleeping peacefully. She thought about Daniel's final words, about the pastor's sacrifice, about everyone who'd fought to keep these bloodlines erased. Listen to me carefully, Elijah, Maya said, her voice steady. You don't have to hide anymore. None of us do. Tell me your address. I'm coming to get you. The boy recited it through tears. Maya stood, careful not to wake Caleb. Her mother looked up. Another one? Another one, Maya confirmed. Constance smiled sadly. Some bloodlines carry storms. But storms also wash things clean. Maya kissed Caleb's forehead and handed him to her mother. Then she grabbed her keys. Because Maya Collins wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was a protector. And there were more children out there. More secrets, more lies, more lives hanging in the balance. She walked to her car as thunder rumbled in the distance. And as she drove toward Mississippi, she whispered the words that had haunted her since Savannah. He said don't trust anyone, but he never said why. Now she knew. Because trust is earned through truth. And truth, no matter how buried, always finds its way to light. Subscribe and join this community, because some stories refuse to stay silent. Drop a comment. What would you do with an inheritance built on lies?